Hi, everybody. My name is Matt Morano. I am an Associate Dean of Admission here at Providence College. Thank you for joining us tonight. We have a really exciting group of some former students and that are going to shed some light about what their experience was like on campus and how they got to where they are now. So I'm going to have our panelists quickly introduce themselves and then we will get off and running. So Sam, do you want to start us off?
Hi, everyone. My name is Sam. I'm a current Providence College junior in the honors program, and I am a business management major and a health policy and management double major.
Awesome. Very cool. Mike, can you go next?
Hi everyone, Mike Cerati. I'm feeling old, so I graduated in 2014. 10-year reunion was in June. I was an economics major, and I'll share more about myself when we get to topics and questions.
Sure. Yeah. Miles, can you go next?
Hello, everybody. Though I can't see you, it's good to be with you. My name is Miles Forg, and I recently graduated in the class of 2024 with studies in marketing and theology. I'm a first generation college student, so I'm the first in my family to graduate from college, and I too will share more about my journey shortly.
Awesome. And Grace, last but not least, if you want to just do a quick intro.
Yeah, absolutely. Hi, everyone. My name is Grace Whitman. I am a 2022 grad, so a few years out. I was a finance major in business school, and I was a political science minor as well. So looking forward to it.
Awesome. I should have prefaced this by saying I'm also a Providence College alum, so I'm pretty biased when it comes to PC. I graduated all the way back in 2006, so Mike, I got you beat by by a long time. Sometimes it feels like it was yesterday, other times it feels like it was a very long time ago, but it's definitely fun for me as an alum to work in the admission office and to meet students and help build a freshman class each year. So one of the things that I find myself talking about a lot when I travel and when I'm visiting high schools and I'm at college fairs is talking about the different resources that are available to students. And that's one of the things that I'm always impressed by as an alum because I'm constantly seeing new changes and updates and new opportunities that students have on campus that I certainly didn't have when I was a student. And I think that it's a really great advantage for all of you as prospective students looking at spending the next 4 years at Providence College, because there's a whole slew of opportunities that you'll get to take advantage of over the next 4 years. And one of the main hubs on campus, a place that has a lot of activity, is the Career Center. It's called the Chirico Career Center. It's located in the library on campus. And I think that there are just so many different opportunities that students can take advantage of. So I'm hoping that Sam, can you talk a little bit about like your time as a current student and how you might be taking advantage of some of those resources?
Yeah, absolutely. So, I mean, I already have taken advantage of some of them, and I'll tell you, they're really helpful. So, one of the first things I did my freshman year, like I said, I'm a junior now, but a couple of years ago, was I stopped in, I made a quick appointment, and the next day I came back to follow up on that appointment, and I sat down with the career coach, and we looked at my resume, and we looked at how we can make this better, how we can make some of these adjustments to cater to some of the jobs that I was looking at, some of the internships I was looking to apply to in the next couple of years. And that just doing it my freshman year, not having that much experience, allowed me to shape my next few experiences. So as I gathered more experience, I could sort of use the advice that I took from that initial sit down and into shaping some of those new experiences on my resume. So I definitely think back to that, and I would totally go again. Now, if I am applying to another internship, which is coming up for summer 2025, so I'll be definitely sitting down with that, probably the same coach soon.
Yeah, that's awesome. So if you visit campus, you might end up seeing someone with a T-shirt that says "Don't wait, Slavin 108." And so I think that the main purpose of this is that the Career Center is not just for seniors or for juniors, right? Like I think that the people that work in the career services office are fantastic. And I think they're trying to make sure that students know that these resources are available to everyone on campus. I think it's definitely really helpful. I know that, for many of you, you're just worried about the like finishing senior year and getting accepted into different places. But I think in freshman year, if you can take a visit to the Career Center, then it just helps you kind of familiarize yourself with a lot of the resources and the things that the center offers. So I'm curious for the rest of our panelists, like what your experience was like working with the Career Center, and if any of you utilized it even after you graduated.
I can go ahead and offer.
Yeah, sure, Miles, thanks.
You're welcome. So one thing that I think is really a differentiator of the Career Center and career services at PC is the focus on strengths. So upon admission to PC, you take a test, an assessment called Clifton Strengths, and it really reveals to you, okay, these are my unique strengths, my aptitudes that I just naturally excel at. And career coaching at PC is really done from the perspective of being strength based. And I think that that's so important because we spend so much time thinking about, things that we may not be great at or things that we may not excel at. But PC off the bat takes a different approach, thinking about, okay, what are the things that I most appreciate about myself, some of my own strengths? And all of the coaches are coming at advising you in your career from that perspective. So, similar to Sam, I started meeting a career coach during my freshman year. And meeting with that same coach proved so helpful because she and I both really came to understand the things that I naturally excelled at. And when designing the internships and the opportunities that she would recommend that I go for, we weren't really thinking, okay, here's the salary I want to make, right? Or here is the kind of work conditions that I want to make. We were thinking first and foremost about what am I great at and how can I let that do all the talking and do all the work?
Yeah, that's a great point. We in the admission office, we took the same strengths test to see like what type of personalities exist in the office, and I think that is that like knowledge about yourself is really helpful, and it helps you work as a team, which most people are doing when they graduate from school, and you're working with different coworkers. So yeah, that strengths like origin of how the career center works, I think is definitely a great aspect of campus. So Grace or Mike, do you want to jump in and talk about your experience with the career center as well?
I'm happy to. Maybe I'll
Sure.
just share a couple of things that haven't been mentioned yet. So agree with Sam's comments. Like freshman year was about spending some time, starting to learn how to represent what I have to offer and what to highlight about it to someone who wasn't there. That's a skill to really start getting some exposure to freshman year, which is essentially writing a resume, right? Like sophomore year ish was like, let's start doing practice interviews, right? In addition to things that were mentioned. Also, things that I did were, at least at the time, there was a mentorship program. And I actually still meet with my mentor once a year, 10 years later after graduating today. It's been a relationship that's been kept going, which is awesome. He's retired now, but that doesn't matter. Just on a personal basis. And then I did multiple times I did the shadowing program, which is so at the time for me, it was over winter break. I think it's different now, but every winter break I spent a day with somebody who is an alum at whatever their office was, or whatever they do for a living. And there's probably about 75% of those that I walked out the door and said, well, I'm not interested in that, but like that's valuable. Like right? You don't have to walk out thrilled to have learned something. And so that was great. And then after graduation, I did some other things I think working with the Career Center also will open your eyes to there's certain like consortiums, and I actually ended up doing my first round interview for what became my entry-level job out of college at a like a consortium thing in Boston fall of senior year, and I was employed by Thanksgiving. So and then as an alum, I have done a few of those shadowing things on kind of like pay it forward on the flip side. So I've been able to host some folks to that have expressed some interest in learning about what the heck I do now. So that would be my remarks for now.
Yeah, no, that's great. That's really helpful. So Grace, have you also worked with the Career Center in your time at PC?
Yeah, definitely. So I'll touch on a few things that everyone's kind of been talking about. I definitely credit my current job to the network that I had at Providence. When I was in school, it was the height of COVID, so it was definitely hard to lock down internships and jobs. Companies weren't even hiring for full-time positions, let alone internships. So I actually reached out to the advancement office at PC, and they were working with the career office to identify alumni who might be able to help students. So it turns out I work at RTX, which is an aerospace company. The CFO currently is a Providence alum. So I networked with him, and long story short, I ended up getting an internship and now my full-time role. So fully 100% credit to PC for that. On top of that, I did also do some shadowing while I was in school. I thought about going down the law school route. So I actually did a shadowing day with an entertainment law attorney. He was actually Michael Jackson's attorney way back when. So really cool experience just to learn from him. So yeah, so highly recommend all of the opportunities that the Career Center, just PC in general, all the different departments and professors can really open doors for. So
Yeah, that's great. So Miles and Mike, do you mind sharing like where you currently work? And I know you might have already touched on this a little bit, but like how did PC help you get to that place?
Maybe I'll go first this time. So I'm going to spend a little bit more time that answering the question than you might have planned for. So out of graduating PC, I spent 2 years working at an economic consulting firm. The reason I mentioned that, I have two reasons for that. Number one, a lot of, first of all, I never would have known that industry existed if it weren't for the cumulative interaction that I had over time with Eileen, who I believe now leads the Career Center, but at the time I was coached, a great person to work with. Didn't know the industry existed, and that ended up being my entry-level job. And I figured out over time that I was really interested in trying to get that. Did it for 2 years and then left. And so I'm going to come back to that in a second. And so now for the last 8.5 years, I've worked at Liberty Mutual Insurance and I work in data analytics. But the comment about left is just to remember that it's the Career Center, but it's okay to not have everything figured out about how you will spend your entire career, right? Like, obviously in hindsight, it really helped me figure out what I wanted to do for my first job or the first few years out of school. And that's really important, right? But I also wasn't locked in. And just remember that too, wherever you go to school. I think it's really important it's something that I would, obviously it's been my experience and something I would emphasize.
Great. Thanks, Mike. Miles, how about you?
So I currently work in advancement at a small Catholic college preparatory school in North Dartmouth, Mass. And in addition to that work, I also work with a boutique marketing consultancy that actually specializes in higher education website redesigns and branding initiatives. And I bring that up because what I found very helpful about the Career Center was that though I didn't have any studies in business before arriving to PC and really was kind of building the plane as I was flying it, learning in the marketing department, I started to know about myself, not only my strengths through the Career Center, but also that I had a sort of entrepreneurial edge that I didn't really know how to hone. So working with my career coach over the past 4 years really helped me to find ways to advocate for myself, to find ways to pitch new projects that I could work on initially as an intern and then as an associate. And now, though I have a full-time role at at that school, now as a full-time, as a part-time strategist. So I really enjoy that, you know, the Career Center works with you and helps you achieve that return on your investment for your education, not just for the traditional pathway that you may assume is the outcome that comes after a 4-year degree, but also to help you really learn about ways to take your passions to make it into um, a project that you can continually work on and even take it in an entrepreneurial way. And I just want to add too that, you know, this panel is something that I care a lot about, especially as a higher ed marketing consultant, because I know that what you're thinking about and what you're concerned with is like, okay, how are the next 4 years of my life going to set up the next 4 years of my life and then the next four after that? But what you'd be entering into as a prospective student to PC really is a very, very, very expansive and intentional community of alumni that we always say at PC that friars hold doors. And that most certainly isn't just about holding doors on campus, but also through the virtual shadows, through the in-person interviews, through the internships and the full-time offers.
Yeah, that's a really good point about, the friars hold doors aspect and how it is that persists into life after Providence College, right? Like we talk a lot about the community that exists on campus and how it's a really welcoming place and how students find their second home very quickly at a place like PC. And I think, again, because students are really kind of setting themselves up for just getting through senior year and starting freshman year, that it's they don't always realize that the community that you find on campus persists off campus after you graduate, and it's a lifelong community, right? Like, we help each other out throughout everything. As Mike said, he still talks with his mentor, who's retired, and I think that's a great example of how the PC community persists after your time physically on campus. So one of the big events that the Career Center kind of sponsors during the year is called the Career Expo. And it just happened on campus. It happened fairly recently. So I'm hoping, Sam, that if I'm wondering if you attended it, and if you did, can you talk a little bit more about your experience and what that was like?
Yeah, so I actually am going to let you down. I didn't go to this one, but this is the first one I haven't gone to. And I'll tell you, I missed it for a reason, like I had an appointment. So I would have gone.
That's fine. Yep.
Let's talk about the one in the spring and the last fall that they did. And that's how I got the internship that I had this past summer. So I went and I talked to someone that was working so I'm a health policy and management double major, like I had mentioned earlier. That was working at one of the big hospital company organizations in Providence. And I connected with them. And then it was through that person that I kind of leveraged more of a relationship there and came in and I shadowed and I saw how the organization ran. And then they were like, do you want this internship role? And they didn't even interview me. They really just kind of said, come on in. We trust you. We got to know you a little bit. We're going to kind of waive the interview process. And it's that relationship that I had just with one person starting at the career fair that brought me right into the summer internship that I had this past year. So a really, really great opportunity. And I just talked to everybody I absolutely could and followed up with them. And some of them got back to me, and that's how that goes, and it really was super helpful.
That's awesome. So I'm wondering for the rest of our panelists, if you can, I know for Miles, it wasn't that long ago, but if the rest of the panelists can talk about if you had any experiences at the Career Expo and what that was like for you and what type of opportunities came out of that for you. So Grace, do you mind starting off?
Yeah, definitely. So it's kind of a trend. When I was in college, I really didn't know what I wanted to do. I was an accounting major at first, especially finance, was thinking about law school. So I was really all over the place. But the big four accounting firms had a huge presence at all of the career fairs. So whether I was going to talk to PwC or KPMG, all the different companies, they're really receptive to hearing my story and my classmates' stories. but it's also a two-way street. You want to learn about them and see if you think that's a place that you want to grow your career. So yeah, definitely that's just one example, but there's hundreds of different companies and grad schools as well that come to the career fair. A lot of my friends were able to network with admissions counselors for grad schools, law schools, medical school, things like that. So yeah, it was great.
That's awesome. Mike, do you mind going next?
Yeah, I think so much of this, guys, is like, in my mind, is about putting yourself out there and viewing every opportunity as practice. So why do I say that? I say that because for me, none of my interactions with the Career Center or events that they put on led directly to any employment opportunities until senior year, like I mentioned. Right. I did some, maybe unusual internships in certain years, and like, but the way I found my way to those was a little different. That's fine. But my point, so for me, like the Career Expo was practice. Like in hindsight, it was practice, right? Like, and so I just think that so many of these things we're talking about in this area are about like putting yourself out there, taking advantage of opportunities as practice, so that you've done it before you find yourself in a situation where it matters. Does that make sense? So like, so I guess what I'm saying is the Career Expo was my opportunity to walk around and literally just gain experience introducing myself to people who are representing different employers and develop some level of familiarity with doing that before the events my senior year that led to something. And that, hey, that's good, right?
Yeah, of course it is. Getting practice to talk to employers is a pretty valuable skill, I would say, right? Especially as an upcoming senior in college. So, Miles, how about you? What about your experience with the Career Expo?
My fellow panelists nailed that. My experience with the Career Expo really reminds me a lot of the experience of going to a college fair, where like to help those listening and watching this tonight kind of like imagine what this event looks like, feels like, sounds like. Think of a college fair, like think of the buzz that's in the room. There's so much energy. Every table is manned by a representative from a specific company or an organization. And what is so special is that they're, for the most part, all friars, all Friar alums themselves, whether they're a recruiter or a hiring manager, their intention is to hire from PC. Like that's something that's so exciting in and of itself. And they welcome every sort of interaction, any question that you may have, collect your resume, and they get back in touch. So it's really an event that, if you consider yourself an extrovert, it's like it will charge your battery right up. And something that I think is very helpful in like Mike said, in helping you cultivate that ability to make relationships, to keep them, and also to develop your personal brand as well. I think that the Career Center at PC does a wonderful job at helping students while they're still in school think about, okay, who am I? What do I do well? How do I set myself apart? And thinking about that will lead you to create a LinkedIn profile that is very well reflective of yourself, of your experiences at PC. And while you're in this whole internship and job search, to use platforms like FriarLink and other PC specific platforms that have, again, hiring managers, recruiters that are friars who are particularly looking to hire other friars, something that is so unique about this school.
So, when I am traveling and I'm talking about Providence College, I feel like I have to talk about development of Western Civ, right? Because it is the most unique academic experience on campus. And my pitch to students is that, maybe the content and the subject material isn't necessarily the most relevant to your major and what you're studying, but even more importantly, the skill set that you learn from a class like Civ is going to be applicable to anything that you do, not just on campus, but especially when you start your life after Providence College. So this might not really be for Sam, because Sam, you're still the current student, but I'm curious for our three alums. Can you talk about Civ and how that, like, how you maybe see parallels from what you've done in Civ to what your current role is, or how you got to your current role? That's a bit of a meaty question. So I guess, like, I won't pick on someone to start right away, but if someone does have, yeah, Mike, let's go. Let's do it.
I have a lot of thoughts, but I'm going to keep it short. The way I think about this is synthesis, right? Like, and it's funny. I was thinking about this the other week, not Civ, but just I think where we could go with this, which is something that I notice when I have interviewed and hired for my team or whatever, or partner teams at the company, is critical thinking is very important and never guaranteed in any particular job candidate. And we all know we live in a world, and then, like, I guess like my other point would be, we live in a world where, you know, we're all familiar with Chat GPT now and all these things out there, right? And so, like, providing value to me in today's world is less about knowing facts, and it's more about synthesizing knowledge and connecting dots. So where am I going with this, right? What I'm going with this is the time spent in a curriculum like Civ, and the time spent, even if it's not Civ, the time spent at a liberal arts college helps you in ways you don't even realize develop critical thinking and also the ability to synthesize and connect dots. It makes a big difference 10 years later when you're not just someone who maybe is focused on the tasks that need to be done for some project at work, but you also have a thought process about, what's the purpose of this? Why do we do this? And I know that's, like, kind of silly to say about a project at work, but the again, it goes back to Civ or some other liberal arts class that, yeah, it wasn't in your major, whatever. But even if it's just a couple of weeks out of the semester where you're like, oh, wow, like, this really gives me a whole different, I'm actually connecting dots here that I didn't think I would. That's, to me, something about Civ that you'll appreciate when you're in your 30s like me, which I hate to say.
Hey, go easy on the 40-year-olds in the room, Mike. All right, let's pump the brakes a little bit. So, Miles or Grace, do you have anything to add to that?
Yeah, I can add.
Sure.
So, like I said, I was a finance major, but I really value my liberal arts education overall. Working in finance, I always say, like, any finance major can learn the numbers behind finance. You know, you can take as many classes, but what really makes a great finance professional is being able to tell a story behind the numbers. And that's where I credit being well written and well spoken to Civ and the other core requirements I had to take. Really, I think that's the key in the real world. So I don't know how to really eloquently explain it even more, but I just think that it's really valuable. And even though Civ was definitely hard, I really do credit a lot to it. So
Yeah, that's great. Thanks, Grace. Miles, last but not least, as the most recent alum, who is the person who, you know, just finished Civ not too long ago, how does Civ relate to what you do?
I mean, what I really appreciate about Civ is that, you know, whether you're watching this as someone that wants to study nursing or marketing or English or anything in between, is that this is a universal experience of being a student at Providence College. This is an experience that is a key differentiator between you and the people that you'll be ultimately competing with for your job, whether it exists or doesn't exist yet. And there's some power in that many people, even if they aren't from Providence College, have never even heard of the school, they've heard of this program. And they know that it's hard. They know that it's rigorous. So they know out the gate the kind of caliber of a learner and a doer that you are. And I can definitely attest to that, you know, whether whether or not the people that I've interacted with have been familiar with, what it is I actually studied at PC, they know that just by virtue of being a PC student, there's something altogether different. And regardless, like I said, of what you choose to pursue, that will be something that will be so invaluable under your belt.
So to back up everything that our panelists have said, we survey employers every year, and we ask them questions like, what are the skills that you want to see from recent college graduates? And you may not be surprised to know that the usually the number one skill that they come back to us with is good communication skills, right? Like they're going to teach you the job specific skills that you need at whatever role it may be, whether it's working behind a camera, whether it is working at an accounting firm. But they're not going to have to take time, or they won't have the time to teach you how to communicate with your coworkers, right? Like how to give an effective presentation, right? Like these sound like really basic things, but these are things that are naturally weaved into your 4 years at Providence. And I think a lot of that starts from a class like Development Western Civ. So yeah, I promise you that it is relevant, right? Like the things that you learn in Civ are gonna come up again in your 4 years, and they will absolutely pop up when you start your job or you start your career once you leave Providence College. So we've talked a lot about the Career Center and like the resources that are on campus. I'm curious if any of you have experiences that you'd like to talk about that involve like the alumni network in general, not necessarily like tied to the Career Center, but if you've interacted with like maybe a regional club of the alumni network, or how that has worked out for you.
Yeah, for me, I've definitely done some stuff with the regional clubs that you mentioned, and that's a great way to meet, as an alum, meet alums you don't even realize exist, right? And then I would also say that I can't tell you the number of times where I find myself on a place like LinkedIn and saying, "Oh, if I want to learn more about X employer, did anybody who works there go to PC?" Right? And guess what? Like to Miles's point, maybe this is related to the whole doors comment. Like, happy to chat and is always the response. So probably pretty standard answer, but it's honestly been quite helpful at different moments in time, including when I sort of made a job and industry switch 2 years out of school.
Yeah, I guess I'll add that there's been plenty of times that I've reached out to someone on LinkedIn just because I saw that they're a Providence grad, and I've had the same experience as Mike, just so willing to reach out. And I've actually scheduled the call on the same day that I reached out, which never happens. It's always, oh, can you do next Wednesday? They're just like, no, call me whenever here's my number. And it's really, really profound how that happens.
I've kind of been on both sides of it. Just actually this week, someone reached out to me on LinkedIn and we met on Tuesday just to talk about my career so far, any opportunities at my company. So real example, I guess. But at the same time, I look for that as well. Right now, I'm at a point where I'm still looking in my company to meet Providence alums, but I feel like we just totally have a different bond. We could be in a meeting together and we're supposed to be important and we're talking about the basketball game going on or something like that. So just, I don't know, super tight-knit bond. I find that friars pull for each other, like genuinely. I know it sounds cliche, but yeah.
That's great. Yeah, I mean that that kind of like encompasses all of what we preach about Providence College and the community that happens both on and off campus. So I wanted to talk a little bit about one of the more recent events that actually happened last month on campus. There's a platform called Friar Hub and that launched in early September. And I'm told that over 700 students, current students that are on campus, signed up for this resource. And what Friar Hub is in a nutshell is that it's basically like a one-stop shop to find career events that are happening in fields that you're interested in, a list of internships that students have done or have not done from Providence College in different fields. It also allows them to connect with different employers that are both Providence College alums and non-PC alums. And so, this is just one example of some of the things that the Career Center is doing for students. We've talked a lot about, different experiences and opportunities for students. I think, we've all kind of glossed over the fact, or we haven't really talked about the fact that our location is a really big advantage for our students, right? Like having access to a downtown capital city that is 5 minutes away from our campus is a really great advantage. It makes things like internships and job shadowing and practical experience really seamless into your everyday life. Like you might have a class at 9:30, and then that lasts for 50 minutes. And then at 11 o'clock, you head downtown for an internship where you spend a couple hours there. And then you're headed back to campus for an afternoon class, right? Like, and that's a very typical experience. And I feel like we can't understate the advantage that is of just having all of these experiences pretty close by to our campus, which is obviously a huge benefit. So, going off of the city aspect and how that's a resource that's close by, I'm curious if any of you have taken advantage of an internship opportunity or something like outside the classroom that happened maybe while you studied abroad. Like, first of all, I guess, did any of you study abroad? And if you did, you have a different internship opportunity when you went abroad, and what was that like?
I wish I could study abroad. Mine got canceled, but I had an internship lined up
Yeah.
in
Well,
London.
okay,
So
so Grace, like how did that come about? I know that it obviously didn't happen and like it didn't follow through because sorry, global pandemic, but like how did this internship like take shape?
yeah, so I was going to study at I think it was the London School of Economics. So really great opportunity that hopefully I'm actually going to London in the spring for a trip. So that's what make up for, for my lack of study abroad.
Good.
But I think through that school, they have a lot of resources that PC partners with to place students in internships. So I'm not sure if it was a business school requirement or all study abroad students requirement is to have some real world experience while abroad. So I wish I could speak more to it, but definitely PC is really able to help you land those opportunities, especially in a different country. So yeah.
Yeah, so it's my understanding that if you are a business major and you're headed abroad, then an internship is actually going to be required of you. And as Grace was talking about, like there's a lot of help in that. We're not, our expectation is not for you to go find a job in Shanghai on your own for a semester. That'd be pretty difficult, especially if you don't speak Mandarin. So we will help you set up your internship before you leave. You'll have a pretty good idea of what you're doing before you even leave campus. And so, yeah, there are other programs that require internships as well when you're abroad. I just know that the business majors are kind of at the forefront of that, and they were kind of the first to incorporate actual internships into study abroad. And right now, it's a little more than half of our overall student population that ends up going abroad. It's about 55%. And yeah, I think it's an excellent experience that gives you a lot of great perspective about things. And pairing that with an internship only makes you that much more of a competitive applicant when you go to start applying for actual jobs, that you can say, yeah, I've worked in Spain for a semester. Like I had experience working with the Italian economy when I was in Rome, right? Like these are things that are super valuable and make you really attractive to different employers. So thank you to all of our panelists. I think you've all shed a lot of really great light about your experience on campus and how the Career Center definitely helped you out. I want to ask one final question before we wrap up tonight, and it's not necessarily career related, but can you talk about maybe your favorite aspect about Providence College, right? Like, if you want to say they're the Career Center, that's a bonus. But I think it's helpful to get some context about your overall PC experience too, and what that's like. So, Sam, I'm going to save you for last for this one, since you have an unfair advantage. You're still there. You're still making the memories, right? So I'll go to Mike first, and then we'll go backwards in terms of like graduating year. So sorry to put the spotlight right back on you, Mike.
No worries. I would say the opportunity to do so many different things. I think obviously I only went to one undergrad institution, so I can't directly speak to another. But I have a sense that if I were to have gone to some other schools that were on my radar, they might have been larger in size, whatever it may have been. I may not have been able to come up with a way to be involved in the set of extracurriculars that I was, and so that's, to me, PC is a really nice size. It's a really amazing community, and Miles spoke to that in a lot of ways. And it's also, PC punches above its weight. It's D1 athletics. We could go down the list, right? And so it's just a really interesting combination that it's probably hard for us to put words to. But I was able to be involved in the theater department, music department, all this stuff, and not lose my mind, and really enjoy myself, and also learn a lot. And I just think that if I had gone somewhere else, I would have like my one big thing that I do in college is X. And it was just awesome to be able to pursue multiple things and meet a lot of people by doing that.
Great. Thanks, Mike. Grace, can you go next? Maybe Grace. I think Grace may have. Miles, you want to jump in, and then hopefully Grace
She was just frozen by how good that response was. What I would say I really enjoyed about my experience at PC is that regardless of if you're a student or you're just visiting on campus, you walk around and you can see clearly that people are happy. Whether it's in the dining hall, whether you're even in the library, which I tried to not go there too much, but even regardless of what corner of campus you may find yourself in, is that people are happy. People live very well-rounded lives. It's not just about getting that degree and getting that powerful graduate outcome after you graduate. It really is about like the journey to get there too. So one of my favorite things about PC was the faith community in particular, because it always was so grounding. It gave me so much joy to know that all I had to do every day was just say yes to what God was asking of me. And through that, bigger decisions like where am I going to work? What am I going to do? How am I going to make ends meet? Those sort of things become much easier. So just as a final word of advice, I just encourage you to do the same thing with your college search, entrust it to God, pray about it. And at the end of the day, you're going to end up in a community where you can see yourself living there and learning there.
Excellent advice. All right, Grace, you ready to go?
Yeah, I'm so sorry. My Wi-Fi cut out like literally the exact second that I was on.
That's okay.
But yeah, I couldn't speak more highly of my time at PC. I miss it, honestly. But I'm honestly going to echo what Mike said about being able to get involved in so many different things. If you looked at my resume in college, it was all over the place in a good way because I had so many interests, and PC really allowed me to tap into all those things. I actually started the club softball team when I was on campus, and I was really just grateful to the administration at PC for hearing me out and hearing my vision. We had a group of girls who really wanted to get this off the ground. And we did, and it's still going strong today. So something really cool to look back on. On top of that, through softball, through campus ministry classes, just the dining hall, I've met so many great friends. Actually live with 4 of them now in Boston. So I just really grateful to PC for my friends and just the awesome experience I've had. So that's what I would say.
Cool. All right, Sam. It is with a tinge of jealousy that we await your answer as the one who is currently living the experience that we all so enjoyed. So
Right.
I'm curious to know what your thoughts are.
Yes, currently sitting in my dorm room on campus, right? But I'd say something that I really, really enjoy about PC that you guys have kind of hit on a little bit is just there's always something to do. You're never bored. And whether you buy in and go to club meetings and what have you, that's great. But there's also just something always happening. Like on Thursday night, tomorrow night, I will be at bingo on the on-campus bar fighting for whatever prizes they have. And I thought bingo was boring before I got to PC, but no, there is standing room only. And that's just one event out of so many events that they put on that are just like that, right? It's that kind of camaraderie that PC has. It's a small school where you'll see the familiar faces on campus. You get to say hi to 20 million people a day, and have that feeling that I know a lot of people here. Like, it's really community, but it's also a big school energy. And the fact that we get to have this basketball team that we go support downtown, or support our hockey team on campus, or we go to a women's basketball game where the coach Aaron Bath is speaking directly to the crowd because the seats come right to courtside. And it's those experiences that I'll just value for so long, and I get to have for the next couple of years here. I'm so happy that I do.
Yeah, definitely. It savor the rest of your time, Sam. I mean, it's they haven't kicked me off campus yet, so I still get to like live vicariously through a lot of the students that I meet with. But yeah, those are all great examples of why Providence is near and dear to all of our hearts. So again, I want to thank our panelists for their time tonight. I know that you're very busy, including you, Sam, as a student. You got a lot of work going on, so I appreciate that. And thank you for our attendees. If you have questions, feel free to reach out to us. You can email the office and we'll get your questions to maybe a specific panelist if you want to ask that. But we hope that you have a great rest of your college search, and we wish you the best. And as always, go Friars. So thanks a lot, everyone, and we'll see you soon.